Today, we're going to break down a really interesting new poem called Fenestrating. It's all about our weird, complicated relationship with technology and AI. And trust me, it packs a serious punch.
Right out of the gate, the poem hits us with this: a fast updating video acoustic conduit. I mean, that's our phones, our TVs, our laptops, right? But look at that second line. It doesn't just say we use them, it says they enslave us. That is a bold, bold claim, and it really sets the tone for everything we're about to explore. So, the first big idea here is this concept of living in a world that's literally behind glass. It's all right there in the title, but what on earth does fenestrating actually mean? Well, the word itself is pretty cool. Fenestra is just the Latin word for window. So the poet is basically coining this term, fenestrating, to describe our modern life. We are constantly surrounded by windows, but they're not glass windows looking out at the yard. There are digital screens, the windows we live our lives through now. And this is where it gets almost uncomfortably real, right? The poem just lists them out, and you can't help but nod along. These screens are everywhere. They're not just tools we pick up and put down anymore. They are a constant fixture in every part of our lives, from the minute our eyes open to the second they close. Okay, so this is where the poem takes a huge turn. It's not just about us staring blankly at screens anymore, because now the screens are starting to stare back. They're starting to think, and they're definitely starting to create. And here it is, the turning point. Clever ink. What a fantastic phrase for generative AI, isn't it? Ink that actually thinks. The poem points out two huge new powers: the ability to just whip up any text you ask for, and, a little more spookily, the power to create fake audio that sounds just like a real person. So let's just quickly break that down. You've got clever ink on one side. That's all the language models we're seeing everywhere, writing everything from emails to poems. And then you have fake audio, the voice synthesizers that are getting scarily realistic. The poem puts them right next to each other to show us the sheer breadth of this new power.
But how does any of this clever ink stuff actually work? Well, the poem doesn't just stop at what the AI can do. It actually gives us a peek under the hood at how it's designed and compares its very structure to our own brains.
Now, this is a really critical metaphor. The poem says these new clever apps are trying to mimic our neocortex. That's the part of our brain that handles all the heavy lifting: language, logic, complex thought. The idea here is that AI isn't just a different kind of intelligence. It's a direct attempt to build a synthetic version of us.
And this is the kind of scale we're talking about. The poem mentions a billion-parameter array. So what's a parameter? You can think of it like a tiny little knob that the AI can twist and turn as it learns. Having over a billion of those knobs, well, it just gives you a sense of the mind-boggling complexity we're dealing with here.
And what do you get from all that complexity? You get this. The poem points out that AI can now get things like irony, humor, and wordplay. And it gets there, first, by just absorbing enormous databanks, basically huge chunks of the internet. Then, it uses something called a transformer model to find all the patterns. And it's through those patterns that it starts to learn the really subtle, unwritten rules of how we humans talk. But here's where the poem gets really, really smart. It acknowledges this incredible new genius, and then, in the very next breath, it points out its huge, glaring flaws. This is the central paradox of AI that we're all living with right now.
I mean, this one line just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the whole problem. On the one hand, you have complete mastery of language. On the other, it just makes things up. It's brilliant and totally unreliable, all at the same time.
And this really lays it out clearly. The poem talks about its deep, clever searching, its amazing memory. But the flip side is that it hallucinates, just inventing facts with absolute confidence. It has a mastery of language, but it can also invent plausible mathematics that is total nonsense. You see the pattern here? It's a real double-edged sword. You know, the poem makes a really crucial distinction here. It says AI has achieved compatibility. It can talk to us, it can integrate with our systems, it fits in, but it has not yet achieved human capability. And that suggests a whole other level, right? Capability implies real understanding, not just pattern matching. And that all leads us to the poem's incredibly powerful ending. It doesn't give us an answer. Instead, it leaves us with this huge, hanging question about where this is all going. This is the last line, and man, it's a heavy one. The auto-programming date. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it's a very real idea that experts are seriously debating right now. So what is this gate? It's basically the point of no return. It's that hypothetical moment when an AI gets so smart that it can start improving its own code, which makes it smarter, which lets it improve its code even better. And on it goes, this runaway feedback loop of intelligence that could explode beyond anything we can control, or even comprehend.
And so, that's the massive question the poem leaves us with. We've seen it's achieved compatibility. It's a brilliant mimic. But can it ever achieve true capability? Can it ever pass through that gate? To put it another way, it can write and talk and create. But can it ever truly understand what it's doing? That's the question we're all left to figure out.